A ship transporting Tesla EVs bound for Australia was directed when it arrived in Australia to turn back by the Australian authorities. The vessel, which was named Glovis Caravel, that's an elaborate name, isn't it, was carrying Tesla Model 3 and Model Y units from Shanghai. Thousands of them, actually. So just to give you an idea of the length of this trip, I checked the ship, and this trip from Shanghai to Australia typically takes 2 to 3 weeks to complete it. And I can't imagine the cost of it in resources and money. I really can't. I remember doing some research on how much fuel the Boeing 787 Dreamliner uses in cruise, so when it's right up at 40,000 feet at its most efficient altitude, and it was about 1 or 1.5 litres of fuel per second. So that means every 25 or 30 seconds it's used roughly what a normal car could hold. So a boat, I'm pretty sure, would be another substantial number. I've got no idea. I could probably have Googled this beforehand if I was prepared. But anyway, Australian authorities maintain strict, very strict, really, really strict biosecurity protocols to protect local wildlife and agriculture. There was a discovery in some of the vehicles of stink bugs. The presence of these bugs, including the yellow-spotted stink bug, was deemed a significant threat to wildlife. And I'm really happy to see that they do show some level of understanding about the fragility of life, even if it isn't human life. So could they not have sprayed or quarantined these cars offshore rather than shipping them back abroad for a 2 or 3 week trip back? I think that's a terrible decision to have done what they did, in my opinion. I don't think that was just. I'm not an expert in this stuff, though, and I don't know what their options exactly were or the seriousness of it. But the cars will be sent back to China, and from having done a bit of research on this, it looks like they're just going to be sprayed and then reshipped back. So that's bad news if you're waiting for a new car. That's 4 to 6 weeks worth of travelling to do what they could have just done, and I guess given it a couple of weeks and parked it up. I know it can be terrible to have bugs and foreign species rock up in your ecosystem. For example, rabbits and toads have done huge damage in Australia, huge catastrophic damage to the ecosystems. The ship, called the Glovis Caravel, carries 6,500 cars typically at a time when it does this trip. So it is quite significant. That's 6,500 vehicles. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about Tesla and why they are now kind of losing to BYD. I wouldn't say that they're losing, they're not losing, but they're not doing as well as BYD are in terms of year-on-year growth, for example. And why that is, let's go into why that is. So Reuters has reported that according to a survey of 14 analysts by LSEG, Tesla is estimated to have achieved global deliveries of 1.82 million vehicles by the end of December 2023. That's the whole year figure of all EVs they've sold. This figure marks a 37% increase from the previous year, with approximately 473,000 of these vehicles delivered in the last quarter of this year. But we're yet to get the confirmation of the actual figures for this last quarter. So that's in my diary. BYD are projected to have sold about 1.45 to 1.6 million full electric vehicles. We will know fairly soon when they release the data, like I just said. But unlike Tesla, BYD also sell hybrids and ICE cars, basically. So the total sales for BYD globally is expected to be around 2.85 to 3 million, which actually, if you remember my video probably back in March or June or something like that, that's bang on. That's exactly what they were. That's what they said they were hoping for. And I genuinely think that is going to buy some extra confidence with investors to see that they are so accurate with their predictions, and they're not just predicting these things and aiming to get these cars in showrooms and then sold. They're actually going past that, delivering them. So hundreds of thousands of the BYD Seagull in China already delivered. It only came out at the beginning of this year. Already delivered hundreds of thousands of them, and that could have been Toyota doing something good there, couldn't it, or Honda, or all sorts of other companies. So yeah, the only other company other than BYD that I know that can do something like that is Tesla. So it is genuine competition here for Tesla, but there is space in the EV world for more than just Tesla and then loads of other people. There is a lot of space. So over the next 2 to 3 years, we will see this really big boom in smaller cheap EVs and the quantities of EVs sold, the actual quantities will shoot up exponentially, which is fantastic. And I'm all for any EV being sold, but a lot of people would love one, but they just don't have Tesla money, you know. And so in line with Elon's master plan from years and years ago, I can't remember what year it was, the next car that should be coming in the next year or so, I think it was meant to be finalized, and you'll see it in 2024, and then you can buy it, and then you might get it in 2025. That is meant to be the Tesla Model 2, which nobody knows the actual name of, because it definitely isn't going to be the Model 2, which, now thinking about it, it should be the Model 2, shouldn't it? Because everyone on the internet thinks it's the Model 2. So over the next few years, even the BYD Seagull is confirmed to come to that, to come as a global car, not just in China. So BYD announced that they will be building or using an old plant or building that they've got to build EVs solely for export, which is awesome. One of which is the Seagull. This was spoken about by the CEO and founder of BYD. So I hope it will be fine to buy one in Europe. I hope it will be easy and cheap and quick, and it will come in the next couple of years, because I would buy one immediately. The day it's launched, I will buy one. Unless it's only in yellow, then I won't buy one. So I've thought about the importing one, and I just think the risk of something going wrong, or there being an issue, or like maybe the compatibility between the software or something on your like phone or whatever, like on the Nissan Leaf when you import them. I don't want a glitch like that. I just want it to be a nice experience, and it's just the risk is too high for me, I'm afraid. But I have looked into it, and the next 20 to 30 years, I think, will look fantastic, I think. Loads of small, cheap EVs. Batteries are coming down in price. The big diesel V8s are going to die out, which is awesome. The smelly petrols are going to go. Lots of people still drive around with 2, 3, 4 litre petrols with big engines rather than smaller, more efficient ones. And they stink. They really stink. I think the emissions in Australia, for example, was 50% higher than is the average in Europe. And that's because Australia is the only country outside of Russia to not have fuel emission standards. So they didn't sort of suggest to Toyota, if you're going to sell that, that bad car with lots of emissions, you have to then sell this number of Priuses, for example. They just didn't do any of that. They just said, sell what you like. This is our country. You can sell what you like. So that's why, I'm pretty keen on this stuff going through and just moving forward, because it's terrible to breathe this stuff in. Petrol gases and most importantly the diesel particulates, because like the Cancer Council said, it's the second most cancer causing thing in Australia after the sun. So I would like it also to look a bit more like Amsterdam, where mobility looks totally different to car-centric countries. Car-centric countries, they're not the most pleasant place to be. So small cars, electric cars and bikes are what I'm most excited about, I think. Not $100,000 supercar beating EVs, although that is pretty cool. Remember to subscribe to stay up to date with the latest EV news from around the world, and also remember to use the comments section to voice your opinion. Anything you like, that's okay. I read the comments every day. And I also wanted to ask you a question. If you all have found that there is just too many adverts in my videos mid-video, or so as you're going through, can you let me know in the comments? I'm really interested to know about that. I often set the settings on my videos to YouTube's default, but I'm starting to think that maybe there'll be too many adverts mid-video, maybe because my videos are typically, 10, 15 minutes long, so I might endeavour to cut out all adverts during the video. What do you think about this? Can you tell me what your experiences are as you've been watching my videos? Personally, I found myself sometimes in this last year or two to think like YouTube is showing more adverts than a year ago or 2 years ago. It's just getting more incessant. So I'm really keen to to find out what you're all thinking about that, because I don't want people to have to suffer that, So thank you very much.